Okay, so welcome to Storytime 73 and Storytime's sixth birthday.
Yes. Happy
So
birthday.
we had a few kind of dress up and show and tell and fun themes this time. One of which was New Year's celebrations from around the world. So there are some New Year related bits and pieces. Things in sets of six. I don't know if anyone went with that, but I do have six cakes as promised.
Wow.
Yeah, they are all
Oh,
different. As suggested, I made the big batch of batter and then took bits out and added things. So I have chocolate, ginger, apple and cinnamon, raspberry. I have forgotten what's in this one, so I'll come back to it. And this one is rose and vanilla. And of course, some of our dress ups are as past Storytime characters. We have a really very good Crackers. Hello, Crackers.
hello. Crackers. Crackers. Shit.
And Grease.
Woof.
And I've gone with Pandora, which I don't have a lot of sort of floaty things and lacy things, but Mum did send me this, which has sort of tassels and stuff. And I created these skull earrings. I'll show a picture,
Very nice.
but
Very
it's just
nice.
paper cutouts. And I've got picture wire looped over my ear to hold that in place because I don't actually have pierced ears to put them on. And we have some gorilla gardeners because there were
Yes.
gorilla gardeners
Good.
in one of our episodes. Oh, you've got your gloves and everything.
Yeah.
We also have
And
things
you've
in
got
sixes,
Oh.
a donut, six donuts.
Yes.
each with the candle.
I
Outrageous.
was gonna bake, but then I went out with my friend this morning, which A meant I did not have time, and B we went to a place that does really good cinnamon rolls. So
So we've got something else to enjoy. Fine. So like last year, our listeners were invited to do a little something creative in character as a past Storytime character. And this time, the idea was that the characters were all attending some kind of New Year celebration, but it could be of the person's choice. So if you wanted to, you could go away and research something you'd never heard about before and please put the character in that situation. Not sure if anyone did that, but I did end up looking up quite a lot of New Year's for the story itself because that is also a topic. So mine's a little bit like that. So we're gonna have a look at the various responses that have been sent in for that. Does everyone who sent one want me to read it?
I need you to read it because I've got it.
Let's hear from Grease the dog first. Shall we, Dad? Do you want me to
Yeah.
read this?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay. Grease the dog at some kind of New Year. Woof, 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 barked the pack before groups began grabbing each other and licking their faces. Then the sky erupted with light and huge bangs. Ah, not my favorite. Make myself disappear. Run, run, run. To the nighttime sleep house. Just get away. Eventually, the noise and light stopped, but I was not concerned, safe in my night house with lots of nice paw covers to chew. I stuck my nose out the door and was surprised to find a delicious meaty smell. Unable to resist, I followed my nose. Big bunches of humans all round a big hot fire thing, but the nice smell was there. I looked sadly at one of the humans and, as usual, was given something. But big surprise was tasty, chewy, meaty thing. I licked the human lying on the ground, who smelled a bit funny and surprisingly didn't flinch when my tongue crossed its face. More woofing from the pack, but fortunately no bangs and lights this time. What was happening? I don't know, but many more faces got licked as the night went on. It was a good night, despite the noisy skylight bit, as I even found a few smelly human cover things to take back with me to the night house. They always seem to be leaving them round the place, but tonight was a lot. My breakfast was late. I'll have to get the humans in order. Little bit of garden reorganizing ahead and chasing the cat from next door. That should sort it.
Nice.
Anyone know where Greece is? What kind of celebration is that? I do not have a guess.
Where do
I
they
think
get really
it's
drunk?
just like
and eat cake
Australia.
on New Year's Eve?
Or Scotland, like
Yes. Well done. In one.
Correct.
Family. That's Scottish New Year?
Yeah.
Hogmanay.
They have a haggis.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I was
I
just
think
imagining it
Greece
as
would
Australian.
enjoy
It was just a sausage.
So it was a haggis that Greece got given a bit
Yeah.
of. Then.
And they drink so much, there's a lot of them lying on the ground by the end of the
Mhm.
night.
Oh, okay. So the person who was
And
like,
it's cold, so you need a fire.
Yeah.
Hogmanay, that's the one.
That's
Yeah,
all right.
Hogmanay.
Hogmanay, we'll
Yes.
be hearing a bit more.
Mine's actually about Scotland and references
Yes.
a few of those things.
Because there's Hogmanay in another one as well. But shall we hear from Florrie? Created by Alice.
Hello. I'm referring to something I made earlier.
Oh,
So
you've got one.
now this is, you'll find out in a minute about what he is. Okay. So, this is Florrie's New Year's Eve. A marzipan pig? What do you mean, a marzipan pig? Florrie was going to see the New Year in with her friend Beatrice in Berlin. They were preparing for a Sylvester Abendfest tonight, and Florrie had maybe drunk one too many Eierpunsch cocktails whilst they made bratwurst, pork sausage, schnitzel, bread corn pork cutlets, pasta salad with frankfurters, more pork, and a pork sausage goulash, Wurzeln Florrie loved her friend and hadn't had the heart to tell her that she had recently converted to a fully plant-based diet. She had accepted the preponderance of pork-based dishes. As Beatrice had explained, the pig was considered to be good luck, particularly on New Year's Eve. But Florrie's inability to imagine what the sweet element of the evening meal, handmade marzipan pigs, would look like, had led her to squeak in exasperation and excuse herself to find solace in the garden, where she imagined all sizes of flying pink pigs, snuffling truffle pigs, pigs wrapped in blankets and stampeding pigs. What did a marzipan pig look like? After calming herself by cutting greenery for a creative table centre, Florrie returned to the kitchen to see, sitting on all the guest side plates, the cutest little pink pigs made out of marzipan, each holding a bunch of marzipan flowers. Breathing a sigh of relief, Florrie poured herself another Eierpunsch, raised a glass to Beatrix, and wished to her a glücklicher neues Jahr.
Beautiful.
And this little marzipan pig is actually made of marzipan, but as you know, marzipan's yellow, and I didn't have any food colouring, so I've just painted it. So I'm not going to eat it.
No.
And the other thing is, the flower is actually a shamrock, because another of the traditions in Germany is that shamrocks are good luck. So pigs, ladybirds, and chimney sweeps, they appear in a lot of German traditions. Is he there? Can you see him?
Ah, it's better.
Okay.
Very cute.
Very cute.
Superb.
I'm curious about Eierpunsch because Eier is eggs. So
It's like an eggnog.
is it right? Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't come across that word.
No, I know. I was surprised because eggnog is quite a sort of Christmassy thing here in Africa and things like that. But I didn't realise that it was there. But the thing about pork is that pork is their good luck meat to go to, and they don't want to put in chicken and other things like that. So it's very different to the traditions here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
I will do a nays that Mama's done. Arjun has been talking a lot about Romans and how they were super inventive and clever with engineering and mathematics and medicine and stuff, and how they organized a 12-month calendar that was nearly right. Because before, when they only had 10 months, it would have been a bit messy with too many moons. Grandma says the 12-month calendar was a good move. She wouldn't like to recite the pre-Julian calendar backwards at the doctors because it'd be confusing and they'd say she'd lost it. And if you were born in February or April, you wouldn't have been. But Arjun says he'd make a spreadsheet showing how the months work, and then we could have an old Roman year. He says the costumes would be easy. Grandma says to leave her sheets alone, though, and her plants. A good thing would be we'll be able to have 2 New Year's celebrations because New Year is fun. Grandma says in Wales they still do Caelnig in some places on January 13th. Even the early Romans had January. It's a bit like Halloween, and you go around singing or acting at people's home and they have to give you something. And Grandma says she'd be in that because, you know, she has quite a nice voice. She reckons she'd need to wash her face and do her hair because otherwise she'd scare people, which is funny because, you know, the teeth. Arjun says she could do a LARP as well, and I think she should come. Grandma's not like a real grown-up.
Yeah, for the people who don't know about the calendar the Julian calendar, which more or less had the 12 months as we had them. June and July weren't there. They were called they were 6th and 7th. And the 5th month, May was also 5th. And so you had January and March. You didn't have February and April. Missing some of the other months. So some of us would have been. I'm a July, and I wouldn't have been there yet. Lloyd wouldn't have been.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a Broderick poem from Tegan. Am I reading this, Tegan, or do you want to? All right. So Broderick is at Hogmanay, the Scottish New Year. Tegan's given us a little bit of vocab so that we understand the poem properly. So Coorie is to cuddle or nestle in, especially when it's cold. A crabbit is someone bad-tempered or grumpy. A dead and living ford is a stream or body of water that live and dead people cross regularly. And first foot is the first person to enter the house after midnight on New Year's Day. Tall, dark, handsome men are said to bring the best luck. Of whiskey, shortbread, and black buns are often exchanged. So this is a poem from Broderick's point of view called I May Be a Crabbity Cat, a Hogmanay poem. I may be a crabbity cat. I am not going to argue with that. I don't want to drink your water from a dead and living ford. I don't want the juniper smoke that's meant to cleanse and restore. I don't want to go to Biggar to see their giant bonfire or see the swinging fireballs tossed in the harbour in Aberdeenshire. But I'll be your furry first foot and bring you good luck. For a cat's the most handsome, you know, and I'll curry and drink your whiskey and milk, and into the new year we'll go.
Very good.
Poems.
My one, it's a little bit rushed because I did it yesterday afternoon and finished editing it this morning, but I've made a little video of Pan. We'll see the New Year's that I've used. I won't tell you what they are yet. They come up in the story as well. And so we might keep them as unless anyone guesses and knows about these straight away if we've done any research on different New Year's. But I'm going to share my screen and my sound.
Hey everyone, I can't talk to you out loud because I'm at a New Year's where you have to be quiet for a whole day. So you should be quiet too. And I'm going to go off and spend my day in quiet reflection. Oh, what's all the water about? 3 times splashed. What does that mean? Wait a minute. Maybe I'm not at the New Year's I thought I was.
But see, there was New Year she thought she was at and a New Year that she was really at, and they weren't the same one. Does anyone have any?
I know that Songkran in Thailand involves a lot of water throwing. So I'm wondering if that's the one she was actually at, but I imagine that kind of water rituals are pretty popular in a lot of places. So
there are a few of them. Songkran was a possibility, but isn't actually the one that I ended up choosing, but close.
I know
Yeah.
that's Solar New Year, which is celebrated in several places. So maybe a solar New Year of some kind.
Well, you see if you pick it out by the end of the story, because she does encounter both of those New Years in this. Okay, so we're gonna have cake. Cool. Get cake ready to be had.
I did a repeat of the kintsugi cake in honor of one of the earlier stories.
That's very lovely. So, as is traditional for us, we will attempt to sing Happy Birthday to Storytime. We will be ludicrously out of time, and it won't sound like much in the recording. Are we ready then? Shall we have Tegan count us in?
Okay.
Yes.
And 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday
to you.
Happy
birthday
birthday to you.
Happy
birthday
birthday to Storytime. Happy birthday to you.
Hip hip.
Hooray!
Hip hip.
Hooray!
Hip hip.
Hooray!
Light the candles.
That last one was a bit stubborn. We're just about ready for our next topics, and yeah, you're all now welcome to eat your cakes. So, in addition to New Year's festivities from around the world and things in sets of 6, today we also had requests for 6 cakes. I made 6 kinds of cake, but there are also 6 instances of cake in the story, so we have to try and spot them. Wrong combinations of username and password. Smart technology that is not really very smart. Vending machine dramas. Superstitions that definitely don't apply. Musicians who can't keep time. Being good at something by virtue of joining a group where everyone is worse at the thing than you. Giving each other the same gift. Unusual cutlery. And too many sopranos. But today, our little poem is just based around the idea of different New Years and what the New Year is all about. It's called Where to Start. When does a year begin? Is it when your calendar for the last is curled up and creased and covered in all that's been? Is it when you turn another year older, folding over the pages of your life to an unknown one, blank and waiting? Is it when the moon is all but absent from the inky depths of darkness to grow again to a solid sphere your hands feel they could clasp if they could only reach far enough? Is it when the sun shines longer or equally on our waiting skins, or when the first buds bloom on dormant dregs of branches? And if we knew for sure where it begins, when to wake up and turn over a new leaf, would we be any different? Would we be bound for bright new horizons the moment the clock strikes? Or is the question of the boundary between old and new, past and perceived as possible, only an impediment? If each day could be a starting line and never a slipped away grain of sand, how would you start this one? Who says it isn't a new year now on the inside?
Very nice.
Today's story is called The 6 Omens. Pan wrestled with the Roomba vacuum cleaner as it attempted to clean up her housemate Florrie's hair. The hair still currently attached to Florrie's head and at risk of soon not being. So far, it had not been a New Year's Eve of good omens. That was not including the fact that the host's smart home settings were so uncooperative with the house party occurring. As it was now 11:30 and the inhabitants would normally be in bed, the house had so far tried to turn off its lights, switch off the Wi-Fi to everyone's phones to prevent disruptions, lock them all in, and of course, commence cleaning. Vacuuming, when you had drunken house guests lying on your floor after playing Twister, was not very smart. But no one had told the house, or indeed the Roomba. But Pan, of course, had special criteria for omens. Omens were the things that came up 3 times. Tonight, there had been an abundance of bad ones. As she finally managed to free Florrie from the rogue vacuum cleaner, the bass player in the band, Iron Rabbit, who were making noise in the front room, got out of time with the drummer for the 6th time that evening. Pan sighed. 6 was 2 threes, and as far as she was concerned, that meant 2 omens for running out of time or being out of sync with other people. She shook her head as she stood up and spotted the 3rd piece of abandoned, unfinished chocolate cake she'd seen that night. What a waste. An omen of lacking gratitude and appreciation if she ever saw one. This only added to the collection of concerning signs she'd seen tonight. There were 3 people at the party dressed as black cats, which Pan was worried was an omen of others viewing things in a negative light. She rather liked black cats herself, but others saw them differently, and therefore, in Pan's mind, these guests' choice of attire could only signal future misunderstandings. She'd found 6 cold cups of tea around the house when she went in search of the bathroom, which could only be a double warning of missed opportunities. And she'd already been shocked from her seat twice by people who felt the need to make early use of party poppers and noisy festive toys. A 3rd, and she'd have an omen of bad surprises to add to the list. Only moments after this thought had crossed her mind, someone popped the cork from a bottle of something fizzy and festive in Pan's ear, and she leapt several centimetres, backwards, luckily only into Florrie, who helped her regain her balance, then gave a drunken wobble and nearly pulled them both over again. At least that only made 5 omens, Pan reflected. It wasn't omens within omens yet. She shouldn't think such things. Being grateful for something before you knew it was true was a definite path to jinxing oneself. I think I know what one of my New Year's resolutions is going to be, remarked Florrie now. Don't tell me, Pan objected, trying to stick some Pringles in Florrie's mouth. Pan believed that resolutions were like wishes. If you shared what you'd resolved to do with anyone who didn't need to know, then you definitely wouldn't do it. That, and Florrie would be the 3rd person tonight to reveal their resolutions to Pan, which meant 6 omens. To get one of those password vault things, Florrie went on, oblivious, so I don't keep needing to reset all my passwords. Great. Not only did that complete the set of ominous portents, but now Pan felt a kind of secret debt that meant she had to tell one of her resolutions to Florrie. I want to get better at singing, she offered, feeling this was her resolution of lowest importance. I know what you should do for that, Florrie told her in a drunken lilt. You should start going to session meetups with the musicians at the local pub. It would be a non-threatening environment to practice some songs with other people who are learning music. Pan wasn't sure learning to sing by doing it in a crowd of potentially drunk musicians was really the best way to achieve her goal. But Florrie was unlikely to be convinced whilst drunk, and Pan supposed it might be fun. So it happened that the following Tuesday, after all the people who'd resolved never to drink again had already gone back on their word, Pan and Florrie went down to the folk session at the pub. Pan had hoped to find that one or two other singers of average range and skill were attending. But when they walked in, they found something rather different. A wall of 6 women from the local community choir barred the way into the circle of folk musicians, their status as choir members announced to all by their matching hot pink scarves and black tote bags emblazoned with pink curly lettering. Light Notes Ladies Choir, the bags declared in neon. These particular ladies were sopranos. So they told the entire session group repeatedly as some of the songs in the group's repertoire were discussed. It seemed that the keys many of the folk instruments could play in did not suit the soprano range. And these 6 women objected to that fact as though they might be able to have it raised at a committee meeting and amended. Excuse me, Pan interjected, after waiting some time for this discussion to resolve itself to no avail. I'm also here to sing. My voice is a bit lower, though. The 6 sopranos turned as one to look at her in disdain. So you're an alto, one of them suggested, looking at her as though the concept offended her. Yes, replied Pan, hoping this was accurate. She wasn't really sure what the relevant vocal ranges were supposed to be, or indeed what her range was. Whatever Pan's range was, however, it was a good one for the key the instruments played in. Pan found herself with many unexpected solos and a lot of unexpected praise, as the only singer in the room comfortable with the appropriate songs. The 6 sopranos were relegated to deafening harmonies. This made for an unusual balance, especially when the crowd of musicians occasionally failed to keep time with one another. This happened easily enough in such a large group, where those on one side of the room could not clearly hear those on the other, and some, by virtue of skill or number of pints, were slower than others. Every now and again, Pan got the feeling that one side of the room was playing a different tune to the other side, only for the melody to somehow slide back into sync a few bars later. Nonetheless, Pan's singing was much admired. Perhaps I did already get better at singing, she remarked to Florrie afterwards. Florrie answered. One way to be good at something is always to go where you're the only one who can do it. Pan poked her in the shoulder and then folded her arms. Well, I made a start on a resolution, she sighed. There were so many dreadful omens at this New Year's Eve. I feel like I need a New Year second draft, a reset, another shot at it. You do know, Florrie replied, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth, that not all countries or cultures have their New Year on the 1st of January. Why don't you research some other New Year's celebrations and maybe you really can have a second attempt? Pan brightened, a light starting in her eyes and spreading across her whole face. Yes, she said, I'll keep celebrating the New Year on all the dates in all the ways it's celebrated until I manage to start the New Year right. They can't all have bad omens for me. And so in February, Pandora and Florrie set out to catch the train to the district near them with the most highly recommended Chinese New Year celebrations. They would watch the Lantern Festival parade and try some traditional New Year foods, they said, deciding not to eat too much at home beforehand. At the train station, however, both of them started to feel a bit peckish. A vending machine stood on the platform, holding an array of enticing snacks. Florrie had some coins, but the machine had a sign. Smart Vend. For hygiene reasons, please use our app to select and pay for your refreshment. Oh, that's quite a good idea, Florrie mused, scanning the QR code to download it. A few moments later, she was tapping away, entering details to create an account. Done, she announced, hitting submit. Her phone screen blinked, and a small asterisked message in red lettering appeared at the top of the login page. Email address already in use. That can't be right, scoffed Florrie. I don't have an account on this 2 leaves thing. She tried entering her details again and got the same message. Oh, for goodness sake, I must have signed up to something else this is used for. She thought for a moment. Okay, I'll try logging in. It can only be one of my common passwords. It would have been for something silly. She set about working through things she'd used as passwords in the past few months. Eventually, the screen gave her a different red asterisk message. Too many attempts. Please set your password. Florrie sighed and typed in her email, clicking on the button to send a link to reset. The screen blinked again. An account with this username does not exist. Ah, exclaimed Florrie. Why did you tell me that email was in use then? I've got it, announced Pan, in an infuriating, unbothered way. I'll buy us things. She clicked on what she thought was a button to open the snack selection menu. Her screen said, Vending, Sultana Mix. What? No! Pan poked at the glass of the vending machine as a packet of trail mix was released from its shelf. No, I don't want to spend $2 on sultanas. I hate sultanas. Oh, said Florrie, in a deliberate mimicry of Pan's unbothered tone a moment earlier. Here comes the train. Later, as they watched the vibrant colours of a dragon weave between the elaborate lanterns, Pan and Florrie were glad they hadn't snacked on Doritos or chocolate bars. They were now full of noodles and sweet rice dumplings and were somewhat regretting their decision to try every new food they came across, as they considered the prospect of the walk back to the station. Being full now, however, did not discourage Pan from considering other food-related endeavours. I want to bake a cake for every New Year I celebrate, she declared. I wonder if there are any traditional cakes for the Lunar New Year. She spent the train ride home researching, and by the time they got back, was determined to try making small, steamed fortune cakes, which were supposed to open up into petal-like points when cooked. Pan rifled through Florrie's cutlery drawer for utensils, pausing to frown at the spoons. All of the spoons Florrie owned were adorned with decorative handles, some moulded to represent historical figures, religious figures or monarchs, others inset with souvenir scenery. There was a complete set of Sydney Olympic mascots from the year 2000, an image of a waterfall in a national park somewhere, a tiny Monet's garden, and a moulded depiction of a horse's head. There was not a single spoon in the house that Pan could mix with without looking at one of these fancy tops. Florrie, she inquired, why are all your spoons ridiculously fancy or strange? Florrie gave Pan a look of mock offence. Pan, when you moved in, did you bring any spoons? Despite what might have been called a tea obsession, Pan had not, in fact, brought any spoons with her into the house-sharing arrangement, literal or metaphorical. No, she muttered, using a spoon with the head of the Queen on it to stir the cake batter. Well then, said Florrie, you can't really complain. Pan's fortune cakes did not blossom properly, and she was soon seeking a new year with which to combat bad luck. In March, Pan booked herself some time off work and set out to honour New Year traditions in Bali, where she would need to remain silent for 24 hours. After being thwarted by airport vending machines and hassled by last-minute work requests, Pan was looking forward to not being allowed to do anything but remain quietly in her hotel. Surely, under these circumstances, no bad omens were possible. She could spend the time in careful introspection and perhaps head home with a little more confidence in her other resolutions for the year. She would not be able to bake a cake for this new year, as no work or leisure of any kind was allowed. At 6 a.m., on the day of silence, Pan's friend Jay tried to call her. Pan silently congratulated herself on remembering to put her phone on silent and cursed herself for forgetting to tell Jay what she was doing. Then she cursed herself for not just turning the darn thing off as Jay tried to ring twice more. An omen of disruption was not what Pan had hoped to take away when the silence was broken the next day by the quiet movement of people travelling to seek one another's forgiveness and begin the new year with a clean slate. She supposed, however, that it was appropriate to forgive Jay his intrusion and not return home cross. Or at least, she wouldn't have returned home cross if not for the discovery, upon going to check her travel itinerary, that the local internet shutdown had caused all her services to log her out. After resetting what felt like every password she had, Pan strongly considered sharing Florrie's resolution of a password vault. Later the same month, Pan researched and planned her own celebration at home for the Persian New Year. Surely she could follow the instructions of a few websites and books at home without encountering any signs of future bad luck. Pan found a nice spring-coloured cloth and insisted that Florrie and Florrie's godmother Ada, who was visiting from Germany, help her to lay a Haftzin table. She pulled up a list of the items beginning with S that could be included in the 7 traditionally placed to represent positive things for the year to come, and realised she only had 6 of them. Pan let Florrie place some sugared almonds on the table instead of the sumac berries she could not obtain. But the almonds didn't really start with S, even if they were covered in sugar, and Pan was sure this didn't bode well. It concerned her even more when she remembered that the timing of this New Year celebration was supposed to coincide with the start of spring, and she was in the wrong hemisphere. Did it even count? Florrie had to remind her of her cake baking promise. None of the traditional sweets Pan had read about were cakes, so she improvised by making one with almond meal and sugared almonds on the top. It felt a little bit as if she was making everything up as she went along, and Pan felt very worried. On April 1st, Pan pushed away fears of April Fool's pranks and instead tried again to start her year fresh by celebrating the Assyrian New Year. This time, she was prepared for the need for 7 things for the table and had carefully selected 7 fruits to display. When she went to lay them out, however, Pan found that again, she only had 6. Something had happened to her quince. This led to her and Florrie spending much of their morning wandering and crawling about the house, looking under furniture for the escaped fruit. They looked in all the sensible places. In fact, they looked in all of those 3 times each. Eventually, they both stood in the kitchen, hands on hips, looking at one another. Versed, they said in unison, both going to the laundry, where they could hear the ferret scuttling about. They found Versed in a messy nest of toilet paper, which he had torn from its packaging. Sure enough, between Verst's paws, being battered and nudged and tossed about like a ball, was Pan's quince. She retrieved it from the squirmy sausage of an animal in exchange for a treat, a nipped finger, and a different bowl. The quince was too battered at this point to make much of a table decoration, so Pan made a quince and raspberry sponge cake and ate it with Florrie in consolation for another new year not quite started right. It had by now become such an established fact that Pan was trying to celebrate all the New Years that, unknown to Pan, Florrie began to research what the next one Pan tried might entail. Entirely independently, Pan and Florrie came across the same New Year and the same video, which opened with a man saying, "Alexa, order me a water pistol," before going on to describe the festivities. It was only when they ran right into one another, both sneaking through the house with the unhideable meter-long packages of super soaker water guns, that Pan and Florrie realised they'd had the same thoughts and bought one another the same surprise. Their version of the New Year Water Festival celebrated in Myanmar was probably not very authentic. Plus, several further water pistols turned up in parcels due to their new smart tech not being smart enough to realise the man's voice in the video they'd both watched was not Florrie or Pan. Cake still wasn't really the right kind of sweet food either, but Pan made a coconut cake, finding coconut to at least be a common ingredient in festive food for the area the festival came from. She and Florrie ended up frozen, the climate in Australia in mid-April not being the ideal time to get doused in water than it would be in Myanmar. Somehow, though, it did feel a little bit as though the chilly water washed their worries away as they rushed across the backyard like children, getting one another thoroughly soaked. When Pan woke the next morning, she had an odd feeling. Although there were still many more New Years she could choose to research and celebrate, she felt instead ready to begin the year she'd been putting off considering started for some time. She sat up and she decided she would make one more cake today, not any particular New Year's cake, but a Pan and Florrie's house New Year cake. And with that cake, she would celebrate feeling ready to start afresh. On her way out the door, Pan realised her cardigan was on inside out. And before she could think, she pulled it off and turned it the right way. Just as she was starting to curse herself for missing the good luck, though, her favourite skull-shaped earrings, missing for months, and an unexpected stack of cash fell out of the pocket. Pan blinked in surprise. When she came out of the shops, Pan found a black cat sitting on the path before her. She and the cat eyed one another. Pan liked black cats, but to be good luck, the cat would have to cross her path, not just sit in it. She looked at the cat. The cat looked at her. And after a moment, it stood up and walked ahead of her all the way home, stopping just in front of her gate, as though to lead her there. Pan considered the yellow eyes that watched her as though waiting for her to come to a conclusion. "You want me to stop looking for omens and decide for myself?" she asked aloud. The cat just turned and wandered off up the street without so much as a twitch of its tail. Pan went inside and made a cake she thought Florrie would enjoy instead of one inspired by any new year. Perhaps, she thought, the musicians out of sync were not a warning of running out of time, but a reminder to look for the beats she and others had in common. Perhaps the three people dressed as black cats were just a reminder to have fun with the things she liked, no matter what others thought of them. Perhaps the cold cups of tea were not missed opportunities, but chances to put small things right. Perhaps the unfinished cake slices were not about lack of gratitude, but about excitement for finding and trying new things. Perhaps the surprises that gave her an initial fright did not mean scares to come, but resilience. And perhaps Florrie and her other friends had not told her their resolutions to stop them being achieved. Perhaps they'd told her so that they could achieve them together. Perhaps they'd told her because they trusted her, because they were her friends and she was theirs. And so maybe the 6 omens were not bad omens at all. Maybe they'd just been there to show her a little more of the world and to point out people who cared. Pan took the cake and some tea into Florrie, and together they began the new year with a smile, a cuppa, and appreciation for all their shared luck, good and bad.
Lovely.
Excellent.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I can
Kind
send
of
out
thing.
that as well. I can put some
Yes, I-
like Cambodian New Year and Chinese New Year photos if you'd like to have a look.
All
That'd
right.
be great.
Yeah, it'd be lovely.
The picture of Jeej is not actually in Cambodia. That is on our sofa in Shanghai with him wrapped in the crown because he is a Cambodian cat. So
Oh.
I feel like it's important to celebrate
Oh.
my New Year with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the main thing people do is take offerings to the temples, hence the little statues with the money in their laps. And then the one after is just like the scene outside the temple. You get all these street vendors just selling flowers and incense and things that you can buy. And like temple outfit is usually a white blouse and a silk skirt, which you can see a lot of the people wearing while they the behind where they all are is just someone with a little street stall full of flowers and incense and offerings. And then the coconuts with the flowers in are sort of decorations and offerings, and then like a traditional band playing. Those were up on the riverside, just kind of making everywhere festive. A little set of Chinese New Year pictures, which was this hiking trip I took that was like to a sort of family homestay. So we kind of went and joined the family for New Year, and we were told, bring a red outfit. So that's that's me and some of the people from the trip in our red outfits. And there was some dragon dancing and lion dancing. Like that was actually when we were on the bus heading home. We just passed this like public area and they were just starting to do a dragon dance. So we pulled in to look at it. The one that looks like a building site is a building site. It was this sort of unfinished temple area, but I just took the photo for like the amount of firework detritus that there is.
That's what all the red is.
That is firecracker paper, and those
wow.
boxes are like firework boxes. And it does not matter. It is not like just at night to admire the pretty sparkles. It is all day long. So like we don't get it in Shanghai, it's not allowed in the inner city area. So we don't get it. But where my school is kind of out in the suburbs. So the week before we broke up for Chinese New Year, there were like people letting off firecrackers just around the school. Like it's in the middle of the day. It's
Yeah.
and the same if you go out to the countryside, it's just you wake up to the sound of fireworks and firecrackers, and it lasts all day long.
Wow.
And then we were making dumplings with this person's grandma telling me that I was not doing it correctly. Like, we just fold it like this, and then be like, "Now you do it." And I'm like, "I have no idea what you just did with your hands," and I'm like, nope, like this. And yeah, in the background, the TV is on, which is actually like there's this big New Year's gala that they broadcast on TV every year, and it's like the Guinness World Record breaking most watched program in the world. So
first of all, let's do some topics for next time. Are there any requests?
Yes, please.
What?
Absolutely impossible battery removal.
Oh, what have you got there?
Well, this isn't the unit. This is the one that we can get the battery out of. But the
Right.
one that we couldn't
Looks the same.
looks much the same.
Oh.
And it's got this thing that says press and then pull. Now, they're basically just little round CD32s. But if you think you can get that battery compartment out of the unit,
Yeah, so it's got this thing that would be perhaps 1.5 centimetres long, and about a little bit more than 1 centimetre of that is where the battery is meant to be on this little kind of envelope slide. And then this other little thing about 2 millimetres across, something, and that's what you're meant to press.
and then pull at the same time.
It's actually impossible to do it simultaneously for one person. So Barry and I were like, I was pushing in the thing, and
Like
he was
team.
It's just, and it didn't work. We can't get the jolly thing out. But I know we've had a similar thing before where, you know, you used a safety pin or something, you push in through the little hole and then suddenly ka-ching.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't ka-chinging.
And they're all the same. They all look like that. I don't know whether you can see it properly or not.
What is that? Is it a remote control?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what these do is they control remote control light systems. And
Okay.
one of the ones we've got is for the garden. That's the one that's behind us here. But now all we can do to change that system is press the button on the power force.
Oh, you can't get the lights
out of the remote control.
Yeah, remote controls that aren't.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Not remotely
You can't replace the battery in your remote control without destroying the remote control.
Yeah.
That's essentially what happens.
It will be April, so maybe April Fools, but not mean or harmful ones. Actually, just funny and harmless April Fools.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. When we had the lovely story about the family with the little household that made up their own beautiful April Fool's thing. That was kind of the land.
Yeah, there's a group of friends who do something else with. Yeah, it's like
something other than
together community sharing thing instead of April Fool's stuff.
Yeah, and that would also be that, like a wholesome April Fool's. Take that to be either harmless jokes or something else entirely, but wholesome April Fools.
Okay,
they're all jesters.
Yes, that's right. Because I was going to say the fool has that other thing of being the jester.
The jester
like
of fun, yeah.
So, yeah, maybe you could have a play with that.
Yeah.
And there's a character called April.
A character called April.
That's April's Fools.
Inconvenient outages.
Inconvenient altitude?
Outages.
That's what they call them. They call them an outage. What they mean is your water doesn't work or your power doesn't work.
Yes.
And they always happen, like tonight, we've got no water.
We haven't had water since 3
o'clock
this afternoon, and that it may be on by 9:30.
Yeah, and about a month ago, I remember at Storytime, It was off for like 48 hours or something.
Was it the water or the power?
No, it was the water because we couldn't see the story. It was the power.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must have had power or you wouldn't have been.
Luckily, we have rainwater.
Another funny topic for you, if you want to, Sarah. How to successfully negotiate a call centre.
Oh,
I like that one.
That's a good one.
right. Yes, there are lots of tricks.
Following prompts, messaging, waiting,
Yeah.
changing screens, pressing buttons. I did all this with the mobile phone the other night. It took me about an hour and a half. But I won.
You won. That's not too bad.
Yeah, for me it was a miracle.
I'm
They're
not
the
a
worst ones.
robot.
No, I like those because you get like, if you wish to report a fault, press 1.
Yeah.
If you wish not to report a fault, but are wishing to recommend our company, press 2. Press 3 if you are a private business. Press 4 if you wish to fall down dead now. So you press 1, and then you've got 4 more options. None of them are the ones which apply to you.
No, that's the thing, is that
That's what they do.
Like
Then you're in a trap. You can't escape because you can press 1, 2, 3, 4, and you still don't get what you want.
And then there's this kind of message. Hi, our crews are still repairing the water main in Main Road, McLaren Flat. We now estimate your supply being restored by 12 a.m.
Whoa.
Which I assume means midnight. You know, it's not actually a.m. I don't know what they call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, midnight.
They haven't done
Oh,
it.
that'd be good. Showers would be nice, wouldn't they?
Showers will be at 1 a.m. this
A
morning.
button that says self-destruct.
1 a.m. washing.
I like that.
Are there any other sort of totally random ones or character requests or anything?
I don't think I've met the cat that
baby?
wrote the poem, and I'm always up for meeting a cat.
Yeah.
Cat?
I think
Well, the
Broderick
cat that wrote the poem is a character, right?
Yes. Broderick the cat, yes.
Broderick
Yeah.
should come
I
back.
haven't met him. And I would
P,
like
have you not
Broderick.
seen Broderick and Fraser?
No.
Oh, they're my favorite. They've been in 4 or 5 stories now.
Quite a lot of
Yeah,
time
Yeah.
very good.
spread out all over
They're
a
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Broderick and Fraser it is.
My thing was babies. I feel like we've had children, but I don't think we've had babies. All
Yeah.
my friends are having babies now, so it's like, you know.
That's a
I
very
feel like
topic.
Fraser interacting with babies could be funny.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
souvenir tea towels.
Souvenir tea towels. That is funny.
Just for a nice random object, because why not?
They're very good.
No,
Oh,
that
and
is
that
a-
actually ties in with New Year, because the reason that is on my mind is I have a lovely Chinese New Year souvenir tea towel. So like tea towels in the way I think of them are not a big thing here. You get lots of little like absorbent cloths for cleaning, and some of them are very pretty, but you don't get the like big rectangle cotton souvenir tea towels. And my mum loves tea towels. So I've been trying for a few years to get her like a China tea towel as a gift. I did eventually find like some company that's aimed at foreigners that had a few like Shanghai souvenir tea towels, and I got her one. But then the bakery where I go for Sunday writing group has started doing randomly like Chinese New Year tea towels.
Oh.
One for me and one for my mum. But they're really pretty. So it's got like lots of little baked goods.
Oh, they are nice. Well, I'll show you not nice. Hang on.
There you go.
Sierra Dragon, so it's got a nice big dragon on.
Yeah.
And it's trilingual because it's a French bakery. So it says Happy Chinese New Year, Bonne Année du Dragon, and what does it say? I don't know what it says, but it says something about New Year.
Yeah.
It doesn't say Xinyan Kuai Le because it has the word big in it. So I don't know what it does say. But something festive in
So
Chinese.
then there are nice tea towels like that, and then there are ones like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the show and tell for next time is already writing itself. It's like, bring a tea towel. I've sadly already shown you the only one I have. Maybe I'll have to get another one for next time.
We've got a cupboard full, haven't we?
So
Yeah.
a friend gave me half a dozen tea towels because her mum used to collect them.
Yeah,
And I'm not really a tea towel-y person.
And the problem with the tea towels is they're incredibly inaccurate. Like if Anne was to hold them up and you were to look at the county of Yorkshire.
Oh, yeah, like the map's all wrong and stuff.
Yeah, stuff next to each other that shouldn't be. Because they're
Yeah.
like 1,500 miles apart.
Oh, okay. So you need one of those characters that you have that are like really into the details and like, no, that map's wrong. You know?
Yeah.
Even the
I
images.
can imagine that really bothering some of.
Yes.
Right.
Pulling up the list of what stories were in the 6th year, and I just have to see whether I can sort of spot any common theme that might lead.
Oh yeah,
for, the collection. So
I can't remember what it was, but I did send through a couple of months ago my suggestion for the title.
Oh, did you? Yes.
that's right.
It'll be way back in the messenger chat somewhere.
It will.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had in the 6th year was the lockdown list, which was the old lady crew with Betty and Bryn and Barb and Ella being a bubble and coming up with kind of like a bucket list equivalent that they wanted to do during lockdown. Song of the Iron Rabbit was Anae went to WOMAD, and Arjun and the choir people were doing something at WOMAD, and Carter's band Iron Rabbit were playing, and there was stuff with Wombot. It was just chaos, really. Costume chaos and stuff. Spanner and the Worst. I don't remember like what went on in Spanner and the Worst other than Spanner the Golden Retriever met versus the ferret, and it was chaos.
It would be.
There's a lot of chaos. Everything Must Go was Fraser trying to get rid of all his fortune through the charity evening, and then he kept winning his own stuff back.
Kept winning his own raffle.
And people winning things they didn't want. Misunderstood Omens was this year's solstice. Obviously they misinterpreted the omens. I don't remember how, but it would have been our typical solstice character group with Albie, Alina, and Jen, and Alice, and Cassie now, and Crackers and that. Sun on the Storm was the choir and the new person and the character who kind of had an alter ego where she went and was a jazz singer at the club in the evenings and had a rival called Izzy. I think there's a lot of coming together in these stories so far, like joining of unlikely things. Pandora's Chaos, that was similar, like because it was about like Pan make and all the chaos she makes in the house, and Florrie sort of saying like sort it out or go away, and then she ends up inviting her to sort of officially be the house, right?
Instead of just house guest.
If you'd asked, there were lots of things in that one. There was one, the slightly magical person from the library called Drea who could affect the weather. And they had a football match and stuff. But yeah, again, there's a kind of coming together thing in that. Then there's the Return of the Pot and Kettle, which is the origin story of the White Cedar Flat Lot. That's Albie and Jen and Co. So that's also that sort of thing. Time, Load of Codswallop, Betty at the Bowls Club, and the like comeback stuff of old music and things, and she tries to insert herself into what's the song called? Strawberry Fields Forever. Which has a very weird music video. That one doesn't quite fit that, but she does get sort of taken in by the Bowls Club people. And there's kind of like a linking of like generations and sort of influence over time. I remember it differently. That was only 2 stories ago and I can't remember.
That was like someone and their
crafty
school friend,
actions
and
are
they
questioned.
thought that they were like
No,
I'm talking
the
once.
teen.
I can't.
How she perceived herself at school.
Yeah,
and then
was it
felt
Pan
that
as
people-
well?
It was Pan, and they thought she was
And it was
quiet.
actually
I can read it. I can read it for you, Sarah.
2 words.
Sarah, what you wrote, remember it differently. Pandora's crafty actions are questioned by housemate Florrie and interrupted by Ferret Wurst as she attempts to transpose her grandmother's summer solstice traditions
That's right.
into a new situation. Upon having to take
Yeah.
Wurst to the groomer, she runs into an old school peer, Carter, and his 3 rabbits, and learns that the way she perceived herself in school was perhaps quite far from the truth.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what you wrote.
Yes, the little summaries are they're good. So that again has that like time element. She's trying to like
looking back.
maintain a tradition from the past. And then of course Betty and the Unbirthday Chairs, which we just had. Which Betty gets involved in the musical theatre and she ends up with lots of rocking chairs. I think that one is not like quite a fit for that idea, but there's some kind of theme there of like unlikely groups of people coming together and becoming connected somehow, and also of like connection over time or with past generations and that sort of thing.
What was the one
And
with
chaos
the
is
runaway,
chaos and coming
like,
together.
decoration?
Sorry,
The kangaroo decoration that ran away. Which story was that in?
Oh, the runaway decoration. What was that in? I think that was in. I'll remember it differently. I think Pan and Florrie had decorations.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was just another thing that happened.
Yeah.
Along the way of that story, that they lost some kind of
kangaroo.
great big kangaroo thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, out of their front garden.
Oh, that's right.
Which Pan didn't actually like to begin with, but then it became a bit of a story. Yeah. So chaos and coming together. Yes. Because there's a lot of chaos. Like, the runaway decoration is chaos. Trying to work out if I can get a tea reference.
Yes.
It would otherwise be the first time we haven't had a tea reference.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at some point, I think we might run out.
Chaos and community.
Chaos and community. Yeah.
Very good. Nice. Very
Hey, our April date should be the 13th. Aha, I see a daylight savings. Whose is that daylight savings? We are going on to our before the next story. There will be a complete transition. This is nice. We're not in the awkward couple of week period where one's happened and the other hasn't. They both will have happened.
Savings.
Because ours is on the 31st of March. So what that means for April, Saturday, April 13th, 10 o'clock start for me, 6:30 p.m. for Adelaide, and 5 o'clock for Shanghai.
Can there be a cone of shame in the story?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Oh, poor Broderick. Brief blatant plug, not for me but for my friend Thea, has just released her novel. It's called The Hiding. You can look it up. The name is Alethea Lyons. and it's set in York. So for those of you who visited us and gone and had a look at York, this is kind of an alternate York and a bit spooky. So if you find scary things not for you, maybe not, but it's very intriguing kind of a book. So thank you for celebrating Storytime's 6th birthday with me.
Thanks for writing so many beautiful stories.
Yeah, that's 73 stories. So it feels like quite a lot. I'm not going to do the math on how many of those I have to type in the near future. I'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Maybe next time.
See you later. Thank you.